About 5 years ago, the Last Night game was announced. Everyone got excited about that game. The aesthetics, the look and feel was very refreshing. Merging old-school pixel art style with 3D at the same time gave a distinctive look to that game. I really wanted to play it. So no gameplay was shown during the presentation, still people got excited. And here we are, today, still no game. There is another game that is trying to fill the gap, Replaced. The aesthetics of this game is extremely similar to the Last Night, pixel art style with 3D environments, an action puzzle platforming type of game. The idea is not unique. We have seen many games with unique aesthetics in the same type of games. Let's take a look at Limbo. This game is over 13 years old, although it's not a pixel art game, but when it was announced, it also made a big impact. It was different, all in dark tones, with little bit of light here and there to paint the place where we will play. This game was different in the way it presented itself. There were already platformers with physics and puzzles, but the main difference is how it presented those challenges to you. The look and feel is what made Limbo a different call to play. Years later, not so many follow this art style, so I could find another game that tried to use a similar look, TypoMan. If you're a fan of war games with some platforming, this is the game for you. Still looks similar but not on spot on look. Going back to pixel art, there is another game that took my attention, Octopath Traveler. It is a role-playing game which meets pixel art style in 3D environments, same as Last Night and Replaced, but it makes you feel different. When you look at it, it feels like you are playing with a miniature world, miniature characters, and it rendered from that point of view, which makes it very compelling to play, to experience besides the story and gameplay. The look and feel is what draws my attention first. Then we have some other games like Dead Cells that meet sprites made in 3D and use clever techniques to achieve shading on top of characters that gave them a distinctive look. So what do I want to create? It will be a pixel art style game with depth and effects that are more visually appealing. So I'm going to look at the tiny details that will make my last game a better pixel art game, so you can play it the way it was intended. There are 4 major points I will cover today to accomplish this. First, pixel art animation. I'm using now a workflow with Blender 3D to create animations, so I was able to create over 600 frames of animations for one character in 2 weeks. And use the same to add other characters, so I can easily add 2 to 3 characters per day. I still need to add bosses and other different characters, but that should not make more than a week to make. You can watch my previous video if you want to know more about the workflow. Second, this game called Fake Signals was launched recently. It has some of the gameplay I wanted to have, and it is heavily inspired by John Wick's universe. The visuals are okay, but still feels flat. All the gameplay happens in 2 dimensions, so to achieve a distinctive look like in the Last Night, I need to break the flat feeling of the game. I need to add depth to the image. That means objects in front and back, so the gameplay happens in the middle. Also, the floor should be at least in some form of 3D or make it feel like it is 3D. There are a few ways to achieve that without having to create 3D objects. The last thing I want to do is to create everything in 3D. That will take a lot longer to make and more difficult to manage. So my solution is to use a perspective camera with sprites and manually handle the depth of objects. This still needs adjustment, but this is what I was able to make during the weekend. Once I have more time, I can refine the output more, but all still handled in 2D. The floor moves faster the closer you are to the camera, making you feel as if it's in 3 dimensions, but all is rendered in 2 dimensions. Third, dark environments, lights, glows, flat areas will be painted with different lights. For example, you can see the street here in the Last Night. Ambient light is extremely important to give mood. There is a university project called The Final Run by Roman Agapov that is heavily inspired by the Last Night. As you can see here, there are a lot of props on the floor. Light paints the scene like Limbo, palettes illuminate the scene, the floor and walls. Light plays a major role in the feeling of this game. So I started adding lights and dark areas around the level, like this. Fourth, effects like smoke with lights, got rays, reflections, depth of field, all those effects that are used for 3D games like first-person shooters, but repurposed to make a more enjoyable pixel art game. Like here, those small things add a lot to the mood of the game, like when walking and looking at the street behind, or when walking in front of this shop. Those small details is what makes these games a more compelling art style to play, something that people want but not able to enjoy yet. So this week I will work more on implementing those 4 things so I can make the scene feel and play better than before. You can still play the early version of this game in itch.io for free. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and thanks for watching and see you next week.